rise to the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll make a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Motion to approve tonight's agenda.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Agenda is approved. And an approval and motion to approve.
Little feedback. All right, so now it should be. Should be good.
I have a motion to approve the open session minutes of April 12th, 2021.
Motion to approve the open session minutes of April 12th, 2021.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. And finally, a motion to approve the executive session minutes of April 12th, 2021.
Motion to approve the executive session minutes of April 12th, 2021.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. We'll move on to student comments. We have Owen here with us.
We do have Owen.
Hello, Owen.
Hello. Well, as usual, I'd like to thank you all very much for having me here. It is an honor to be able to speak at school committee meetings. So thank you very much. All right. So as the school year is winding down, senior events are winding up. Though before I get into that, I would just like to say that our sophomores here at Nipmuc are going to be taking MCAS. I believe tomorrow and one other day this week, as well as 2 days next week. So good luck to them. Wishing them well as they take MCAS. Hoping everything goes well. So yeah, a lot to report on this week. We have a great deal of senior events, which we are all very excited about. All right, so off the bat, some of you might have noticed that yard signs have started popping up as we draw near to the graduation date. We have decided to commemorate our graduating seniors with yard signs, which as you drive through the community, you might spot every once in a while. So just a little nod to the seniors that are graduating this year. All right, and then furthermore, just finished up a, wait a minute, no, never mind. Lost my spot there for a second. This week we have the senior knockout event, which we are all extremely excited for. Very much anticipated by all members of the class of 2021. Each participating member of the senior knockout event has been assigned a someone that they will attempt to knock out using a water gun. It's very high stakes, and we are all very excited for it. Yeah, no. So at this point, participating seniors have their assignments, and yeah, we're gonna give it our best shot. So we are all very much looking forward to that. Furthermore, we have finally confirmed that prom will be occurring. Yeah, about a couple days after graduation, I believe, which is a departure from what we usually do. However, I know that we are all very much still looking forward to it. It's going to be held in Foxborough at the Lakeview Pavilion. We are all very excited to be able to hold this event. It will be seniors only. However, as stated many times before, we are very excited that we are able to hold this event. We were very disappointed that we were not able to have it last year. However, it was extremely understandable given the circumstances, which is why we are so happy that we are able to have it this year. Yep, very excited. All right, into the slightly less fun area of the student report. AP exams have started up at Nipmuc. So all students that are participating in a college level course while at Nipmuc, which is a great deal of students, it's time for the test. So I know that I will be participating in a couple of tests myself, both AP English language test and the AP European history test. I look forward to participating in. Yeah, so AP tests will be happening throughout the course of the next 2 weeks, I believe. Um, uh, yeah, there's definitely someone that's looking forward to those of all the people in the senior class. At least someone's looking forward to those. So definitely something to get done. We've been studying for a long time, and we're definitely looking forward to it. And one last thing to close out the report: senior skip day is May 13th. So
I have no words. I just know.
my apologies, but
Thank you for keeping that secret. Well done. Well done, Owen.
we had to run it by administration and everything. I mean, it was a bureaucratic process. I thought everyone was in the loop at this point, but
Not everyone's in.
hate to ruin the surprise. Anyway,
Yeah.
look forward to that. Concludes the report as usual. Thank you so much for having me. It's a great honor to be able to speak here.
Thank you, Owen.
Thank you, Owen.
All
Pleasure to meet you.
Very much.
All right, we will move on to community comments. Are there any comments from anyone in the room? Seeing none, if anyone who is watching on Zoom has a comment, please raise your hand and you will be brought into the webinar panelist. We just ask that you state your name and town in which you reside.
That's all she wrote.
All right. Seeing no comments on Zoom, we will move on to superintendent's comments.
All right, good evening, everybody. Just a few things, definitely pandemic related, but also some pieces of good news contained within these pieces. First and foremost, I put in your packet the updated DESE guidance on things like graduations and end of year ceremonies. And I'm sure John and Marianne will be speaking about this very, very shortly and talking about the idea that they put together for NIPMUC's end of year activities and senior celebrations. But the guidance around graduation, some of the biggest changes being the students seated outside. If they are masked, they can be within 3 feet of each other. If they're not masked, it's going to be within 6 feet. And then along that same line, something that honestly came out very, very quickly, both myself and Leslie McGinnis were surprised by it last week, but changing the requirements around definition of close contact to have now within that 3 feet of distancing rather than the 6 feet that have been the standard, but also with that caveat around, and this is really significant for our staff, that a staff member or any individual in the building who would be fully vaccinated or had confirmed COVID case within the last 90 days do not need to quarantine as long as they are asymptomatic. So those are some significant changes in guidance. You know, we track it carefully on a daily basis with regard to the statistics. And, you know, the week before April vacation was a really, really challenging week. And believe it or not, that was the all-time high for number of quarantines. We were upwards in around 160 quarantines. It was very, extremely high. The last 2 weeks have been better, but again, something that we watch very carefully. Second item is we're really, really pleased that on May 7th, we will be conducting a vaccination clinic for our students that are 16 and over. If your child is 16 or 17, they do need parental permission. This is something that has come together very quickly in conjunction with the Mendon Board of Health and the Southern Worcester County Vaccination Collaborative. We will have that clinic go on all day. It's open to our students and also BBT students. And it's the Pfizer vaccine, and therefore the second dose will be 3 weeks later on May 28th. So I definitely would encourage our parents of kids. I would imagine a lot of them that are seniors, when they're going off to college, the trend is they are now requiring it, vaccination prior to setting foot on campus. And if we've got sophomores and juniors, they're also strongly urged to get vaccinated. And then the last piece, I really, first and foremost, I really want to commend John and Marianne. I think it was 2 meetings ago, they came here and they talked about just a lot of the challenges that existed with regard to being able to have safe end-of-year celebrations, particularly for our seniors. I think they've been remarkably thoughtful and deliberative and collaborative in their approach to put together a schedule to really celebrate our seniors appropriately, but also doing it in a safe manner. So if you guys could just briefly talk about the slate while I get your blog up and running, and you can talk about it.
Absolutely. Thanks for the chance to come back. As Joe said, it was about a month ago that we were here to talk about this. And as you heard, there's a lot of excitement about the senior events, and apparently more and more of them popping up all the time. Which is great. We're really excited about this, and we appreciate the thanks, Joe. I think we want to pass that thanks along to our team. We have a number of teachers and advisors who've been getting super creative in order to make these events happen for our kids. We're grateful for that. Kate Reardon, one of our senior class advisors, is here tonight, and she did so much in order to propose safe options for our students that are going to be fun and memorable and give them some of those iconic high school experiences. So we're feeling pretty fortunate that we have those. We were able to pull a committee together that consisted of the leadership team, building principals, and all the nurses in the district. And we encouraged teachers, advisors, to submit proposals for activities, and they got creative, submitted a great group of activities, and we were able to review them as a group and then make some adjustments where necessary. But overall, we were able to approve a lot of events that we're really excited about. So thanks to Kate and Johanna, our senior class advisors, but also you'll see Allison Bush and Kevin Campbell, our art teachers, Simon Harding and Whitney Simmons, our music teachers. Across the board, we had a lot of support in putting this together.
That's awesome. So all of these senior events are published on nipmuckprincipals.com once it were approved. So kicked off last Friday with the senior sign delivery, as Owen mentioned. So it's exciting to get those out to our students. Some teachers delivered and other kids chose to pick them up at school. And our senior directed one acts happened today. They had a little kind of congratulatory ceremony outside after school today, which was nice to see as well. So that was kind of the kickoff. So it's already started, which is exciting because it's hard to believe that it's already May. But the first real big senior event, I would say, is Senior Fest. That is on May 14th. That is on the day that was prom day previously. So that's a half day because it's professional development. So seniors knew they wanted to do something. So that is an outdoor event, 5 to 8 p.m., where there'll be food and yard games and hopefully a hypnotist or some other form of entertainment where kids can stay socially distanced. So we're pretty excited about that and excited to kind of kick off some of the senior events with hosting that event on campus. And thank you to Kate and her senior officers and Johanna, that's all of them doing that planning.
Yeah, and just to jump in too, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the parents. The parents have had a huge role in this and being creative, finding solutions, and they still have a couple of surprises hidden up their sleeves, which is exciting. But Donna Shalali, who, as we know, educator in district, but also super dedicated parent and a great leader, has been able to bring a great army of parents together to help celebrate our kids. So we're thankful for that too.
Yeah, thanks. Next two are our senior art show. So these are events that happen every year, with the exception of last year, but really did some thoughtful planning to pare them back to make them doable in the pandemic. So senior art show, you'll see, is taking place on a Saturday evening. It's going to be set up in the cafeteria, one-way flow of traffic, able to welcome guests in, outside guests in a way that is safe, but focused on our senior artists. And then the band concert and choral concert are happening on Wednesday and Thursday. So those are the seniors' kind of final days here. But those will be focused again on our senior musicians. All our musicians will be there, but senior parents are going to be invited with limited attendance to be able to view those events. So again, happy that our senior events are kind of spanning all of our student groups and really honoring the work that our kids do in school and do in their extracurriculars as well.
The seniors really wanted to go back and visit the other school. It's amazing how quickly something can become a tradition. I think it's now going to be the 4th year we do the senior walk, and they were disappointed they couldn't go through the halls, but principals are super creative. They're going to have all the kids and teachers outside, either around the building or lining the fields. So after our first rehearsal, we're going to take the kids to visit their past teachers. They'll have signs saying what their future plans are. So we'll be able to continue that tradition. It's all part of the lead up to the big day on June 5th, our graduation ceremony. We're going to follow a lot of the same guidelines we had in place last year. We have found the graduation guidance to be really clear, really concrete, and we're feeling very confident about being able to put on a great, memorable event for the kids. There'll be a lot more information coming out about graduation in order to provide reminders, but if you did click into the blog, we've tried to provide every detail and every question that may need an answer there so that parents can start to plan and get ready for that. But thrilled that they're going to have the chance to have a graduation. We feel that way about prom too. When we met last time, a couple meetings ago, DESE guidance wasn't yet out on proms. Since that time, they did come out and say that be aware, prom is an inherently high-risk event, and so please be smart about it. They said that if you do plan to have a prom, they recommended doing it after graduation and when the majority, if not all, of the students have been vaccinated. So with that guidance in mind, we scheduled it for June 10th. So that's a Thursday night after graduation. We'll keep the graduation celebration going. It's going to be, as Owen said, at Lakeview Pavilion, and we're looking forward to giving them that night. The change in the state guidelines allows us now to have everybody in one room. I think last time we were here talking about 2 separate venues, 2 DJs. So this is great. They're going to be together as a class for one last event before they head off to their future. So we're looking forward to that. What's nice about prom too, and we've heard in the past couple of days, some folks have asked to have prom on campus or have a more low-key event. We feel like we have been able to provide both the low-key on-campus class event with the Senior Fest, where there's food trucks and games and the hypnotist, which we will be hiding from at all costs. And then after that, you have the more formal prom. It is not mandatory. Students do not have to feel like they need to attend this, but should they choose, get dressed up, head on over to Lakeview Pavilion and have a memorable night. So it's been a team effort. We're grateful for everyone's help and support, and we're looking forward to celebrating this great group of kids. Cool.
Thank you.
Outstanding. Thank you, guys.
We have some subcommittee updates. Budget subcommittee.
Yep, that's fine. Actually, I think I just want to hand it over to Joe on this because he's got.
Yeah, the budget subcommittee met last Friday morning to really talk about the messaging. And what I'm going to be discussing under new business as far as the status update of where we are with the FY22 budget really kind of captures the conversation around, what are really the key points. I think as I work through this, there's a certain degree of complexity, and not only to our budget, but the manner in which each town is dealing with their assessment this year. So really, it was a productive meeting to really kind of really drill down a complex situation to some real rudimentary points.
Okay, policy subcommittee met at 6 p.m. tonight, immediately prior to this meeting. We had 3 policies to review in light of a DESI compliance review coming up next academic year. So the 3 policies which we will present for first read on May 17th include homeless students, children in foster care, and military children are the areas of concern. So there's a little bit of revision and some inclusion of those 3 policies, so you will see them coming up.
Any questions, comments before? Everybody have any business?
Okay, the first issue is over the last, I would say, 4 to 6 weeks, we've had a fairly comprehensive and robust search process for a new assistant principal to replace the retiring Paul Marshall. And I think we have found and selected an outstanding candidate. And so I'm going to turn things over to Jen to introduce Nicholas Coma.
Wants to stay here.
Well, you could probably, if you could move maybe a little closer toward the microphone.
So, thanks for having us. I feel like I was in Dr. Mistrick's office talking to his administrative assistant, and I said, I'm getting married! This is a very close partnership, as most of you know, and I'm really thrilled to introduce Nick Como as my new partner. It was a pretty exhaustive process, and it started with, we had about 41 applicants for the position, and we went through those with a fine-tooth comb. We had a great committee with Vicki was part of our committee. We also had Jen Santasuzo, who's assistant principal at Franklin High School and parent of one MISCO student and an income MISCO student. We had several teachers from different grade spans. Our elective teachers were represented. We had 2 students who didn't miss a beat. They were spot on and caught every detail. And I think from the start of the process, when we were just looking at Nick on paper, through his interview to the follow-up pieces, he just stood out as really what we felt was going to be the best fit and great match for us at MISCO. So we did interviews, and then Nick came and spent a day with us at MISCO. He and I got to have some time together and really get to know each other a little bit more, talk a little about the vision for our school and where we're going ahead and where our core values are. I flushed those in a little bit more after the interview. Then he spent all the lunch blocks in our staff room, so staff would come down and meet him, and I got a lot of these people walking out because we were excited by what they heard. And then our students toured him around at the end of the day, and I met with our student council board members today about something different, but mentioned that they were the first to know they were going to be signing his contract this evening, and they were very excited because we've got good reviews from our students as well. So we've had about 8 or 9 hours together, I think, at this point, and we seem to get together and not stop talking. A lot of excitement, a lot of enthusiasm, and
A lot of energy.
a lot of energy,
Yeah.
right? And we just say way too much. And I think one of the things I'm most excited about is the way our core values are aligned and the strengths that Nick's going to bring to the role. And I was always looking for partners that balance, push me, help me be that lifelong learner, and that I can do the same for us. Nick has spent the last 6 years as a building administrator at St. John Paul in Boston. And Nick, I don't know if you have questions for Nick, or you want to just Nick to introduce himself a little bit, but I'm really excited and thank you for the opportunity.
I'm very excited to be joining Mersey and the Misco Hill team. Did I say it right? Learning all the lingo and building relationships with all of you, with all of our different schools, and with our families and students that are tuning in and staff. I look forward to getting to know Misco Hill through your eyes and to bring my gifts, my talents to our school community and really continue to grow. I love the middle school experience. It was the most formative years of my life. I entered middle school insecure, low confidence, and a very small scope of experience. And because of great teachers, administrator, and culture, I was able to grow, find my confidence, and establish lifelong friendships, not only with students, but also some staff members that inspired me to become a teacher and an educator. So I'm crazy about middle school, and I'm just meeting Jen, meeting Joe, and the rest of the team. I just knew that this was the right fit. So I'm really excited and look forward to meeting each of you individually as well.
I was reading through your resume and everything, and the stories that you told about your past year of experience and what you did to transform the school district, that was pretty cool. I don't know if you want to cover that or anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I am so impressed and proud of our school district. So I am a principal of a K-8 Catholic school out in Dorchester. And we were able to open up, be in person since September, fully offer both in person and also remote. But it started, obviously, as you know, it started way back in March, and then obviously a lot of long hours over the summer, working with our staff, working with our families, working with our students, and the changing, ever-changing guidance that continues to change as well, to make sure that we're opening up safely. We are creating access to all of our students, and we're best supporting our teachers, because we've had to make some changes, as I know, as I've heard of Misco Hill and our district. It was a year unlike any other, but I'm really proud that we're right now at 85% in person, and 15% are still tuning in remotely, but they're making huge gains, staying connected to our school culture, and it feels like we haven't missed a beat. So really excited to bring some of that learning to Misco Hill. Awesome. All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to be able to share with all of you an update on where we are with regard to our budget, as I mentioned before. So I would say over the next 2 weeks, we really are truly at a critical point with regard to our budget. And because within these 2 weeks, as it is typical during the month of May, we will have both our annual town meetings in both of our communities and also the town elections. And this is I'm finishing my 10th year, and I can say in these 10 years, this is the first time that the two towns are taking very, very different approaches to funding the local contribution. And I'm going to talk a little bit about it, and there's a certain level of complexity with this. And if you are a parent or a community member in Mendon, it looks different versus Upton. But both scenarios, engagement in our annual town meetings, and both of them are going to be this Saturday, May 8th, is extremely important. And again, because of COVID, both of them will be outdoors. The Upton town meeting will be here at Nipmuc on the front field, and the Mendon-Town meeting will be on the backfield, the football field at Misco Hill. Different start times here in Upton, it'll be at 9 a.m. and in Mendon, it will start at 10. So you've all heard this many, many times, but just kind of reviewing where we are with regard to the budget. It has stayed status quo. Back on March 15th in the auditorium, you certified a budget for the amount $39,990,339. And again, it's a fairly significant increase, 6.64% or pushing 2.5 million. But again, thinking about where we were a little over a year ago at this time, pre-pandemic, it's very, very close to the budget that was originally certified for FY21. And as we talked about, I want to say 2 school committee meetings ago, over 3/4 of that increase is merely to keep level services, okay? And again, level services means keeping your existing staff, programs, and services. However, keep in mind and recall, there is a grand total of 7 positions, 5 that could be considered new, and 2 that are restored positions that were cut in 2019. But I think you can make the case in a compelling fashion that these are all positions that we need, giving our kids what they need coming out of the pandemic. So again, to speak to those 7 positions, I think you could throw them in one of 3 categories. The first one being, as we discussed, this bump that we see in this year's 3rd grade at Memorial Elementary School. So right now, between the students that are in person and the ones that are in our standalone remote program, we're looking at class sizes around 27, 28 per class. So to bring that down to about 2021, we're looking to add a 4th grade teacher at Memorial Elementary School. We've talked extensively about the need for more social emotional support, and specifically adding 2 school adjustment counselors, one here at Nipmuc and one also at Misco Hill Middle School. And then also at the elementary level, 2 elementary instructional coaches that'll work very, very closely with our teachers, particularly in designing specially designed instruction and interventions for kids who may need it after this year. And then the 2 aforementioned positions that were cut in 2019 to make the budget work. One, the library media specialist position, which again, we've talked about being very critical towards the needs for Nipmuc's continued accreditation with the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. And then also, as we've learned through this crisis, the need for appropriate technology support. And that would be a technology support assistant that would work with students and staff, particularly now that as district-wide, we are a 1-to-1 district. So as we've talked about before, because of really limited increases in state aid, specifically we are considered to be a minimum aid district, which translates to $30 additional per student, which comes out to be a little bit more than $60,000 additional in Chapter 70 or state aid. Our increase to Mendon is about $821,495 over the previous year. So you can see the assessment is a little more than $11 million. And to Upton, it is $13.7 million, but a substantially larger increase, an increase of nearly $1.5 million over this year. Now, keep in mind, as we discussed during the budget process, The reason for the difference in the magnitude of increases, where you have a separation of over $600,000, relates to the differences in the MLC, or the minimum local contribution, as defined by the state. As we discussed, Upton has an increase in the MLC of at least $361,000, where Mendon actually has a slight decrease of about $2,400. So when you work that out proportionally based upon student enrollment and so on, that's why you see that dramatic differential. So as I said before, something that is very different here, and definitely different in my 10 years being here, is the town's approach to funding the local assessment. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that and where we are right now. Starting with the town of Mendon. Mendon is putting the overwhelming majority of that increased assessment. So I believe I said it was approximately $820,000. 803,338 to a proposition and a half, proposition 2.5 operational override. Keep in mind, typically the budgeting methodology through the town has been to do a 50-50 split, to take the increase in the 2.5 levy increase and half of new growth, and split 50% for the town side, 50% for the regional school district. This year, as you can see, essentially we will be level funded from FY21 with virtually the overwhelming majority of the increase going directly to an override. So as you all know, with a proposition 2.5 override, it has to pass in two places. It has to first pass at the annual town meeting, again this Saturday, and then at the ballot on the annual town election on May 11th. I'm sorry, May 18th, which is 2 weeks from tomorrow. So on Saturday, during the town meeting, you will see Article 15, which will be handled as a separate article for the override, and then also that will be the verbiage for the ballot on May 18th. So keep in mind, if this override in Mendon were to fail, it's very, very significant. And I can't underscore the grave results. So keep in mind, if the override were to fail, not only would the district lose the $803,338 dollars in funding from Mendon, we would also lose Upton's proportional share, because our two communities always have to be in balance as far as their proportional contributions to the regional school district. So therefore, we would have a commensurate loss of nearly $1.4 million from Upton, for a grand total of $2,160,952 less in funding. This would mean we would end up with a budget, as you can see, of approximately $37.8 million, which would represent less than a 1% increase over the current year, 0.87%. What this would be something that would be devastating, resulting in many, many cuts to program services, and as you can see, approximately just roughly estimating 40 FTEs of staff, and that would be across all areas. So looking at the Upton situation, Upton is handling the situation differently, and they are funding the district's requests within the Proposition 2.5 levy limit using free cash funds. However, a portion of the almost 1.5 million, $436,497 is going to be handled at Saturday's annual town meeting as a separate article showing a transfer of free cash. So you will see Article 7 on the docket, on the warrant rather, appropriating this. And kind of an interesting dynamic because it's being brought forward by the Board of Selectmen. However, a majority of the Finance Committee is making the recommendation for unfavorable action, for the simple reason that, again, this is using one-time money for an ongoing operational expense. Okay, so for this to be successful, obviously at town meeting, people have to vote in the affirmative for not only our operational budget as far as a line in the town budget, but also on this specific Article 7. So conversely, if this article were to fail, we would lose that $436,497. And then when you match that with Mendon's proportional share, which would be $348,005, we would lose over $784,000. Now, keep in mind, my assumption of that calculus is the Mendon override passing, but even with this loss of $784,000, it would also be very, very challenging. It would result in approximately 15 FTE loss, and you would be cutting programs and services, et cetera. So this is a slide, if you recall, 2 school meetings ago, where we talked about of our approximate $2.5 million increase in our budget from FY21 to FY22. Again, over 3/4 of that increase, 77.1%, is strictly level services. And you can see what the expenditures are as far as things like contractual obligations for steps and lanes for our employees, some of our expenditures with regard to textbooks and instructional materials, things that we have no control over, like our assessment from the Worcester County Regional Retirement System, things like out-of-district tuitions for our students with their highest needs, things like the Norfolk Aggie tuition line item, and so on. And again, those strategic investments, those positions that I talked about, represent about $450,000 of the increase. We talked about the investment in athletics coming off a very challenging year with the pandemic and a loss of gate receipts. And then also some of our unanticipated purchase service needs that we have for special education. Again, that remaining 22.9% is that increase of about $569,000. So again, I always repeat this, that it seemed like it was 7 years ago, but on that date, on March 9th, 2020, when you certified the budget, the original FY21 budget, I concluded with this idea. And I think we're at that same place, that as a district, we really are at a crossroads. We really are at a crossroads over these next 2 weeks, where if we do not have appropriate local support and the district has to go into the mode of cutting, then we will regress
We will not be moving forward with our strategic plan. We will not be moving forward with really the supports and the interventions that our kids need, particularly coming out of this recession. So the things that we talk about that we really value as a community, having reasonable class sizes for all of our kids, having the electives, having an outstanding art and music program, having an athletics program that under Chris Schmidt's leadership has really grown and flourished over the last 5 to 6 years. Everything that we're doing with regard to social emotional learning as an emphasis, equally as important as academics for our kids, all of those pieces, all of those programs will definitely regress. And I know that there's many of us, particularly parents of younger children, may have not been in our community back in 2009, 2010, 2011, when we had some very, very challenging situations. You know, John and I always talk about my first year as superintendent, John's first year as principal. 30% of all classes here at NIPMA had class sizes of 30 or larger. Those days are long gone, okay, because of our community's support, because of vision, because of having a strategic plan that has really been our blueprint to design high quality learning for all of our kids. So conversely, with appropriate support, we really move forward with our vision. We move forward on our vision around the portrait of a learner for all kids. We really move forward in a productive manner coming out of this pandemic. We know that our kids will be resilient. We know our kids will grow. We will move forward, but we cannot move forward without appropriate support from the community. So again, I can't stress enough the importance of these next 2 weeks. So again, in the town of Mendon, the annual town meeting outdoors Saturday, this Saturday at 10 a.m. And again, 2 weeks from tomorrow is the annual town election from 7 to 8 in the Misco gym. And then Upton, as I said before, is this Saturday at 9 o'clock here at NIPMA on the front fields. And the town election is a week from tomorrow at Town Hall, but correct me if I'm wrong, early voting started today?
Saturday.
Saturday. Thank you, Kelly.
You're welcome.
So that, in a very short nutshell, is what the budget subcommittee discussed last Friday. If anybody has any questions or ideas, I'd be more than happy to answer your questions.
You, Joe, talk for a minute about the specific program impacts that will occur if the cuts happen? Because I realize we've talked about staff, but we haven't necessarily articulated, and I know we talked before about, you know, what kind of, you know, maybe not exactly, but, you know, the kinds of programs that will be impacted. What could potentially be out there on the chopping block if we have to cut through this budget?
Sure. I think the first place that you look, you know, in making those difficult decisions, you want to do what you need to do to preserve your academic core. So unfortunately, here at the high school and also at Misco, you start to look at what you would consolidate as far as the elective offerings. So in the arts, in the music, I know here at Misco, we have an outstanding business education program. So you'd probably look to execute some cuts there. I know we've been working really, really hard to build up, particularly at Misco, our wellness program. You could conceivably be looking at cuts there. You could be looking at cuts to the Spanish immersion program, particularly looking at the middle school level where you would lower it so that, you know, instead of being something that was part of the core, you would have it
as an elective offering, or, you know, the kids would be getting much less. I think some of the things that we do with regard to intervention services for kids, we'd have to take a long, hard look at. Again, it is making decisions that you don't want to make, but thinking about, okay, for those fourth graders at Memorial, obviously, we're not adding any of those new positions. So you would say, okay, then I know next year's fourth grade is going to have a class size of 27. I think you would also look at, once you have to start making difficult cuts, you would say, all right, do I have another grade at the elementary level at Clough or Memorial, where right now the class sizes might be 20-ish, where a cut is executed, and you know, we're going to have to go with a larger class size of 26 or something to that effect.
I understand it, and while I know it's a difficult thing to do, I think people have to realize that we're really taking a step back almost 5 years if these budget funding components don't actually go through.
Yeah, and again, something that you know, I talk about Chris's leadership of the athletics program, but realize in the override campaign of 2015 that, you know, you were very, very actively involved in, one of the things that we did is we made the athletic user fees reasonable. If you recall, because I know you started almost at the same time when I started, back in 2011, we had athletic user fees that were well over $400. If a kid was playing hockey, my God, the parents needed to take out a loan. You know, it was over $600. Yes, leadership and vision is important, but we also brought down a lot of the barriers to get more kids participating. You know, we're all about teaching and learning, but I also have to tell you some of the proverbial low-hanging fruit, should we have to execute dramatic cuts, would be athletics, where we might be in a situation where we had less offerings, but also we would easily up those athletic user fees to make it a almost self-funded program.
Yeah. I think that's important for people to know.
I just wanted to mention, just to stress that, you know, this is sort of the problem we were dealing with in 2019 or 2020, I believe.
2020.
In coming up with this budget, we anticipated we were going to have this discussion when COVID hit. So, and we adjusted our request to the towns down considerably then. So I just want to make sure that, you know, everybody realizes this isn't a surprise. In fact, in 2015, I think we were asked, the school district was asked, you know, how long are you going to be able to last on this override? And we said we're probably going to have to come back within 5 years or so. I think that was a pretty astute prediction. And now we're basically doing an assessment, and after really trying to skimp and whittle for a long time, including removing a librarian and upping the user fees for sports already, as we have done. You know, we've made ends meet for the past 5 years. Now we have to have an infusion. We have to have this money to continue the level services of the district and provide the services that our children need. And quite frankly, the services that you can find in many other school districts around in the area, especially in our ability to adjust our programs and to adapt to the needs of our kids. So I just wanted to mention that. Hopefully everybody's listening.
Urge everyone to attend their town meeting, their respective town on Saturday. And these amendments to get to the ballot box on the 18th, please.
Joe, do you want to mention anything about Wednesday? Are we not doing that, town hall?
Oh, yeah, Jay, can you touch upon that, please?
Sure. And get out here where you guys can actually hear me. On Wednesday, the town of Mendon is holding a virtual town meeting. Basically, we're going to run through the Mendon town warrant and at the same time talk about all the various articles, which obviously includes the school override, trying to answer as many questions as we can for residents ahead of the town meeting, just so we can expedite the town meeting a little bit. It's something we did last year, and I think it was very advantageous. It's a 6 o'clock meeting, virtual, not in person. I believe it's on Microsoft Teams. It's on the Town of Mendon's website. You'll see the link there, along with all kinds of documentation related to the Mendon Town meeting. Specifically, it's a Mendon thing. It's not going to cover anything in Upton, but it will cover the school district budget. So, I encourage you to attend if you want. I kind of moderate that meeting, but I'm also there to answer questions on the school side, because I can do it in that form. All right?
Move on to about a couple of trip proposals.
Yes, you have in your packet travel requests from Kate Reardon, and I know you're back there with Kate. Thank you so much for being patient. But there's 2 requests. One, I believe, Kate, it was maybe 2 or 3 months ago, you were very optimistic about trying for the seniors to bring that group of students to Paris for this June, but because Europe is still closed, we're asking to postpone that from June of this year to June of 2022. And then also a second request for the usual biennial trip to Italy. And I know the kids have an outstanding time, and Kate does a terrific job with it in April of 2022.
So yes, we're very optimistic and hoping that things are starting to open up. Europe should be open just a little bit later this summer. We're afraid some of the museums and things in France won't be open in June. So there is a travel date in June. I think it was the 21st is a guaranteed travel date, just like we had this year for next June for the France trip, and make sure that we get the same exact itinerary. So students who will have graduated but are already signed up, we're going to allow to come, and I'm going to read them the riot act, and it's still a high school trip. And if obviously I'm not going to let other graduates who just want to now come on a trip, they're not allowed to come. So I still have 9 people who are signed up. We're going to try and hopefully get more now that we have a year to come think about it. And I think going to the south of France is better in June than April. So we kind of, and to let those kids who maybe will have to be freshmen in college still attend be in June. So that's the first one. Yes, I was a little optimistic a few months ago, but had to hold out hope. So, and then the second one is just the normal trip that we do with the exact same itinerary that we've done for the last decade that I've been here. The price is there for you with the early enrollment. I worked this out a while ago, but we're waiting for a full in person and to try to start to feel a little bit more optimistic that we might be able to travel. So I don't think it'll be exactly $300 off. I'm hoping for $200 off. So the price is a little bit off, but same thing. The Wednesday before vacation, we would leave and have a wonderful summer. I mean, they are opening Europe this summer. So I'm assuming next April we should be okay. Here we go. What happens when I assume? I love that. Question?
Okay. All right, so we need to, we need a motion to approve for each trip.
Motion to approve the change in date for the trip to France to be dated April of 2022?
That one will be June 21st of 2022.
June 21st of 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And then a motion for.
Motion to approve the change in trip
Just the approval, not a change.
Right,
Oh,
yeah.
approval,
This is my first
just the
time
approval for the
coming in.
change, for the trip to Italy,
To, on April 13th, 2022.
April 13th, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you so much.
So, correspondence, so there is a letter in your packet that I submitted to the town crier in response to an article that appeared on April 16th. That was titled "School Committee Does Not Act on Federal Funding, Keeps Budget Certification." So the article, I think there was some confusion about the article, whether we were actually accepting these funds from the American Rescue Plan Act, which of course we are. So the discussion was really about whether we would apply them in their entirety to next year's budget versus using them to address ongoing needs related to the pandemic, which is as they were intended. So submitted the letter just to provide some clarification about our discussion about that. So that was that correspondence.
Vicki, there are some questions that have been asked. You know, within the webinar, if we, if you and the committee so choose, we could have folks raise their hand and we could promote them as panelists and they could ask the questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, if you can hear me, if you're still there, Megan Clark, do you want to ask your question? Can you promote her to be a panelist?
I can. I can allow it to talk. So let me try this now.
Hi, sorry, it's Megan. I'm currently at work. I work in the ICU, so I was trying to run back to my phone to talk to you. So I had a couple questions. I think you just answered one of them, and that was about the article about not accepting federal funds. So I think you said you just
Misleading headline, Megan.
Okay. And then the other one was, I think I've asked other people in the past, I never really got a clear answer. Other towns can charge families for busing. Why can't we charge families for busing within a certain amount of miles of the school?
It's against the law in the Massachusetts as a regional school district. As a regional school district, we cannot charge for busing because we regional.
She is also multitasking at the moment.
I'm currently at work.
However, we're only reimbursed in the rate of about 65%. Got that?
Yeah, I think you should have. Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
You're welcome. I also see a question from Nicholas Miller.
So Mr. Miller, I'm going to ask if you could state your name and the town you're from, and I will allow you to talk as a panel.
Hi, this is Wanda Sanchez Miller. Can you hear me?
Hi, Wanda. How are you?
I'm good. I'm sorry. That's my husband's account. It's Wanda. And I just want to say first and foremost, we moved to this town about 9 years ago because of all the services, all the school sizes, the Spanish immersion, the attention to the arts, the quality of the teachers. It's a phenomenal school district, and I love the town. So I voted yes the last two overrides. So we've had already two overrides, and between the overrides for the school and the town's reassessment of our homes, it's getting to the point where our taxes are getting to be to a level where that soon most of us won't be able to afford to live in our homes because of the taxes. And so I'm wondering what we knew 5 years ago that we were going to be here 5 years later. What different things have been considered? What other ways have we thought of creatively so that we don't have to keep coming back to us, the taxpayers, with these overrides. So if we knew 5 years ago that we would be here 5 years later, what have we, and then again, 2 years later, a year later, what are the different things that we've looked at, other line items, other than another override?
Great question. So we've looked at plenty of places, consistently found efficiencies. So for example, you're probably looking at us here in the PDC of Nipmuc Regional High School. One of the projects that we took on in 2015 to 2016 was an investment in LED lighting all across the district. So every single light fixture, internal and external, is LED. In that span of time in making that investment, we're now starting to see the fruits of those labors, and we're able on an annual basis to reduce our electricity costs by approximately $200,000. So Wanda, we're constantly looking for efficiencies like that, but keep in mind, our greatest resource, where our greatest expenses are, is in our staff. And what we try to do is we try to find efficiencies in programs. You know, sometimes you have situations where people are retiring and there's savings. There's places where sometimes you can consolidate classes and so on. But it's extremely important that we have a high quality staff and that we are competitive and that we meet the needs of a diverse student body with diverse needs.
Okay, thank you.
We have somebody who asked a question, but they put under anonymous attendee. I don't know if they're still in there. No, I don't see them there. I think that's it. Unless anybody else has a question and they want to raise their hand. I don't see any. Do you see any, Sam?
I see no hands up.
Okay.
Any other matters not anticipated by the committee within 48 hours of post meeting? Hearing none. Future agenda items include school choice openings for 2021-22 on May 17th and the school committee reorganization on June 7th. And with that, we will roll call to executive session pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A, Section number 3, to discuss strategy and respect negotiations with the National Teachers Association, which is doing so in open meeting and have detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the committee. The committee will not return to open session.
Sean Nicholson, aye.
Ruth Scott. Lee Martin, aye. Vicki Robinson, aye.
Bill Desotter, aye.
Carrie Lawrence, aye. Adjourned. Thank you, everyone.